It's We've Been Watching. We're back again, Claire. We're always back again, aren't we?
We're intermittently back again. Yes, yes. I mean, but I think we're working all right now because I've got my laptop on the ironing board. So,
Good.
we're really into that technology thing.
So,
Woo.
so we're turning the clock back about 50 years in terms of podcasting. We're doing it from an ironing board. I mean, I must
Definitely.
admit, I found another domestic appliance which is entertaining me at the moment, and that's my smart meter during this cost of living crisis.
I had a smart meter put in, and in their infinite wisdom, the man that installed it, me and my neighbour discovered 2 years afterwards that my smart meter had been put on her meter. So I've been paying my
Oh,
neighbour Chris's electric bill for the last 2 years. Fortunately, we get on, but it's just like, oh, anyway. It's all mad. So we advise everyone really, don't we, to sort of gather around your computers and your phones and keep warm by listening to We've Been Watching.
and I know I think things are going backwards because I did have a couple of letters from readers saying stop reviewing programs that are on streaming channels. So I'm banning streaming channels for the next 3 weeks. Streamers,
So, but people have been saying what? Don't
people,
uh, don't do streaming programs. That's
yeah,
mad.
well, people are saying that they can't afford to pay for streaming channels, and they want to keep. They'd like the review to be kept to shows that are on good old fashioned Freeview.
Oh, that's quite interesting. Because I mean, there's been a new channel added to Freeview, hasn't there? The W channel, which is all, from what I can see, female focused programming about babies and ambulances. And I don't really know what that's going to add to the Freeview thing. But I mean, having said that, I've this week cancelled my Netflix and Disney Plus for a bit because I'm a bit skinned, and I'm also fed up of skipping through films and programs I don't want to watch. But that's really interesting at the moment because it's my neighbour. Sorry. Um,
Is that the one with all the electricity?
Yeah, the one who's been stealing my electric. Yes, but I mean, if it is going to be a choice between heating and eating, or watching Dope Sick on Netflix, then it's going to be a big thing. 'Cause I mean, how much would it cost if you have Disney Plus, Netflix, and Amazon Prime?
Oh, you're getting up
That's
over 30 quid. Oh, Amazon Prime, you have to pay that on a yearly basis, so I think you're encouraged to, aren't you? No, an absolute,
mm.
no, a small fortune. I mean, you think that's a big dent out of your electricity bill. So, welcome to the
Yes,
cost
quite.
of living crisis TV, which is what we're.
Exactly. All the things you can get on Freeview.
Well, the first thing we should talk about is Gordon Ramsay, who's been offered to us on the BBC for our regular shilling to the BBC.
Yes, now, I mean, I'm fascinated by Ramsay's Kitchen Nightmares on E4 and Channel 4 because it always, in daytime, it always seems to be on. And I'm really surprised that the tape hasn't worn out yet because this program must be about 12 years old and some of the participants must be dead.
No, absolutely, but it's public service broadcasting, Claire. You have to remember that he's teaching us how to clean up a kitchen and how to sack people and shout at them and mostly swear.
Yes, he's teaching us this time as well how to literally jump off a cliff.
I know, in a neoprene suit, which is the worst thing I've seen on TV this year, frankly.
As Clive James would say, bad sight of the week. Yes.
The thing was, they kept saying it was 80 feet above the sea. I think it looked about 80 inches to me, actually, when he plopped into the sea and then emerged from it, scaring the living daylights out of the 12 contestants in, what was it called? Future Food Stars. Terrible
Yes.
title. What sort of a title is that?
Well, I think they just did it for the Twitter hashtag, which is hashtag FFS. See what they did there?
But also, is it just incredibly ego driven to have your name in the title all the time?
Yeah, I suppose it is. I mean, and as well with the sort of stunt where he said, I want to. Basically, it's The Apprentice with sandwiches, isn't it?
Yeah, basically cheese toasties. By the look, that's all they could create.
Yeah, and a 40-minute wait for them as well. Yeah.
Very melted cheese toasty coming up.
But also, you got to see Gordon Ramsay being all hard and sporty, you know, 'cause by dressing in a neoprene suit and turning up in a helicopter.
I know.
So
I
at
don't want to
first, I
see
wasn't
him
quite
doing.
sure.
I don't want to see him doing any of that stuff. I mean, I did sort of warm to it in a way. I don't know why. I think it's that thing about formats, isn't it? If there's a good format, you tend to sort of go with it without realizing what you're doing. You think, oh, that's not a bad idea, and then you keep watching and think, I'm still watching this show.
Yeah, I mean, and I have to say, I do like Gordon Ramsay. I know he is a bit of a Marmite presenter. And I mean, I don't think he was a great host of that. What was that game show he did? Something about gold bars, was it?
Bank balance, adding to my
Bank.
bank balance, it was called.
Hmm. Which, strangely enough, hasn't come back for second series. But I mean, I do think, I do like him working with people. I do think he's quite encouraging. And I was actually quite surprised to see a bit of post, fairly close to the watershed F words being liberally dispensed over the programme last night.
Yeah, no.
I was a bit shocked. Yes.
But then, I mean, I think there are fewer than normal. I think he was trying to really curb his natural tendency to sort of F his way through 60 minutes of television. But then
And I
I
mean,
still think he's too. I still think. I mean, I appreciate what you say, but I still find him a little bit unlikable, and I don't know exactly what that is. It just feels that every show you watch is about him.
and I just quite like Gordon Ramsay when he talks about food. I quite
Yeah,
like him being serious about it.
yeah, totally. If he'd sort of dropped the whole effing nonsense and teach us a bit more about food, which we don't really pick up on these programs, do we? Really? He might end up with a decent show, but you love him all the same, Claire. So you're going to give this 5.5 stars, I bet.
Oh, I'm not going to give it 5.5. And also, I thought contestants were really quite. Uh, I couldn't see anybody I really liked. They all just seemed a bit wishy-washy young people. That's what I thought they were.
But
Um,
if the best thing you can come up with is a cheese toastie, even with bacon chutney, I mean, you're struggling a bit, aren't you?
yeah, in that case, we should all open up a food shack, shouldn't we?
It's like us doing a podcast from an ironing board, isn't it? But anyway.
Absolutely, complete and utter rubbish. Yes.
And Claire, you've just watched a new program with Romesh Ranganathan. How unusual.
This week he was investigating the death of Jimi Hendrix, something that really didn't need investigating. But he was doing it with a humorous bent, with a criminal psychologist interviewing, people who've done autopsies in the past, and he discovered that, he probably just it was an accidental death. And I thought, did we really need an hour with the admittedly very lovely Romesh to tell us this?
Yeah. And so will you watch the final episode ever of Peaky Blinders on Sunday night?
Oh, I might, just for the hell of it. I mean, have you been in? It's a feature-length episode, isn't it? It's Friday.
Yes, yeah. So it's the finale, a feature-length episode in which I think they're going to drift back to their life in the trenches. I can't imagine Arthur and Tommy Shelby coming at you with a bayonet. I think there would have been a very short World War if those two were involved.
Sort of lining us up for the feature film, really, isn't it?
I think it's meant to be, yeah. The last week's episode I thought was one of the best of the series. It had almost two garrottings in it, which, I mean, one garrotting is good value, but there was an Italian garrotting. I'm told it's an Italian style garrotting. I won't go into any detail because we're before the watershed. But I'll leave it to everyone's imagination. But it was highly entertaining, and we shouldn't be laughing at such terrible violence, but I was. I'm sick. I mean, my other outstanding highlight of the week was finally catching up with Kate and Koji again on ITV.
You know what? I laughed a lot. I really did have a good laugh at that.
Did you? Well, I don't think I laughed. I was more fascinated that it was a live audience, and I was thinking, God, has anyone checked they've still got a heartbeat?
Well, and also it's an incredibly cheap sitcom, isn't it?
I'd love to see people eating this sort of stale food that's actually offered by her. I mean, there were cheese toasties. Did you notice?
Oh, well, yeah, there's probably 40-minute wait for them as well. But I genuinely did laugh a lot, more than in most comedy. I mean, there was a line about a customer being very messy in the gentleman's toilet, and Brenda Blethyn said, "Oh, it's terrible. When he goes in, it's like the Nile Delta." And that did make me laugh quite
It has
a lot.
picked up a bit. I mean, it should do because it's got such good people on it, hasn't it? It's got Brenda Blethyn. I mean, who's done a lot of comedy apart from Vera. I mean, I find Vera funny as well. I'm finding too much of the world funny, but Vera can be highly amusing, going around in her Mac and that big Land Rover, which has never broken down, unbelievably. But but she's very good. And then I think it's written by Andy Hamilton, isn't it?
Yeah, yes, and
Guy
forgive me,
Jenkins.
Guy Jenkin, yeah. And it is an interesting subject, isn't it? Because you've got an African refugee in the cafe, and it does seem quite an incongruous subject.
Yeah,
But
absolutely. But of course, the other thing that someone pointed out to me is that he's actually a doctor who's available.
yes, so why is he sitting in a cafe when he could be, retraining for the NHS, which I'm sure he'd enjoy. Maybe they'll do a storyline about that this week. Talking about sitcom and ITV, isn't it? Because there aren't any anymore.
Yeah, I think wonder where they found this. They must have found it down the back of a cupboard somewhere in ITV headquarters.
Will this do?
I think I found a
But
sitcom. I think I found a sitcom, dear, stuck in the back of this cupboard. Can you do anything with it?
I mean, I suppose the idea of ITV comedy now is something like, Breaking Dad with Bradley Walsh and his son, or even The Chase. There isn't, or Ant and Dec. I think ITV's comedy is just morphed into light entertainment.
I think it's Bradley Walsh is basically their comedy, is what you're saying, which I suppose is about right.
Basically, yes, isn't it? But I mean, it's interesting as well because we've got the weekend that new series with Lee Mack and Holly Walsh, and celebrities being really cold. And Lee Mack has got a quiz show on ITV coming up. So, I think stand-up comedians are basically taking over the world.
They are, but they all seem to be ending up in quiz shows, which is I find just a bit tedious. I don't know why. I mean, there's something. I watch about half of any of these new quiz game shows, and you just can't be entertained by them. I'd rather go back to watching, I don't know, Mastermind or so. Can you get into new quiz shows? I can't.
Well, this week with a friend of mine, he said, "Oh, there's a new quiz show, home quiz hosted by, excuse me, Ross Kemp," and he said, "I want to watch it." And it's called The Bridge, I think, and you have to answer a series of easy questions.
I mean, I'm bound to say that's a bridge too far.
I like Ross Kemp. I think he's a good actor, and I like him presenting programs.
Claire, you're liking so much this week. This has been a bonus week for you.
So I'm not going to say but this is it's too dull.
So it's basically dull people answering stupid questions, isn't it? Really,
Yeah,
this is the quiz in a nutshell. I don't know which night it was on, but have you caught? I think it might be on Thursday night actually. But Open House, the Great Sex Experiment on Channel 4.
Oh, good Lord, what's this, David? I'm going to roll my eyes to the back of my head now.
Well, it was all about whether you wanted to get involved in group sex. From what I could, that's the experiment. They started off with a threesome. Then it was basically in the next episode a bit of an orgy, from what I could see. It was the sort of thing to make Mary Whitehouse spin in her grave, I would reckon.
Yes, and I thought that documentary about her this week was a bit boring as well.
Yeah,
But
so busy
yeah,
week for her, I would have thought.
E4 show called One Night Stand, where people who've had one night stands see if they can get it back together again. So, I mean,
Is that got a sex therapist? I hope we always need a sex therapist on board because they know exactly what to do, don't they?
yes, exactly. They always know what to do. And of course, there's Married at First Sight Australia, which apparently everybody loves, apart
Well,
from me.
I don't mind that, but I started to watch the latest series, and it felt a bit sort of lockdowny in a way, and I think they were already getting a bit too knowing about the format of the series, so it didn't work for me this time around. Maybe they need to have people that have never watched the television before.
Oh yes, going into sort of the unknown. So here's the thing: you
Yeah,
get Simon Reeve, the explorer, going to look for contestants for game shows who haven't seen the formats before
I like
in the world's most remote region.
I love that. And then the show will be
Yeah.
stupid people answering dead dull questions or dull people answering stupid questions. The whole thing, maybe because TV is going to become so cheap in this cost of living crisis, we're going to be ending up with podcasts like this where you can only hear half of them, and then shows presented by inappropriate presenters.
Well, it was interesting actually. Anita Singh in the Telegraph, I think it was last week, she was writing about a new comedian panel show on Dave, where I think they had to I don't know, talk about if they were on a ship going down, what music they play, what they would eat, stuff like that. And I think the headline of the piece was why TV comedy has been ruined by lousy podcasts. And I think she had a very good point.
Oh gosh, I hope we're not influencing TV in any way. That would be awful.
Not if anyone was listening to this, wouldn't it?
They are around the world in their dozens, apparently, according to my analytics. But it's been wonderful to catch up on TV, smart meters, ironing boards, and your electricity setup, actually, Claire.
Yeah, it's fabulous. Just a little insight into my home life. So I hope you've all enjoyed that.
Until next week, I'll catch you then, Claire.
Yeah, see you then, David. Bye.
Bye. Oh, urgent postscript. Don't forget to subscribe. We're in danger of doing another one if we can keep up this outstanding technical quality.